G'day folks, thought I'd do a quick review on the KT Solar 60 amp solar controller. Now this product comes also from another manufacturer, Lumiax. Now I'm not sure who's who in the zoo here, or both of them rebadged, or it's generic, but I picked one of these KT Solar controllers up for about 80 bucks, brand new, because I was wanting to upgrade my system from 30 to 60 amp capability. So I installed that about a week ago, this thing, after putting in a much bigger battery, and I wanted whatever sunshine I got to be able to really maximize that. So I thought that's the way to go. So I've put about 1.2 kilowatts of solar on the shed roof, a 300 amp hour lithium battery, and the KT Solar MC6015. So let's have a look at it. Alright, so here's the box. Yes, comes nicely packed. I'm not going to go into the packing of it, it's just a box. So as you can see, MC6015. Now that part number, so here it's called a KTM6015, has Bluetooth. So it's got BT on the end of it, but the MC6015 is the part number if you buy this same controller from Lumiax. So feature sets, all that stuff there. If you want to read that, you can stop and have a look at it, pause it. So up to 98% efficiency. So given its 60 amp rating, this looks pretty good. And KT Solar's a manufacturer of solar panels, so I guess them putting their brand on it's probably a good thing. So I thought I'll take a punt on it. It was the right price, and it seems to be working well. I've certainly had no issue with it, and I've got this thing running at the moment. So there's all the feature sets anyway. So yep, nothing too fantastic as far as the box goes. Gives you installation. I'll give you an installation template, which is good. I wish I'd known about that yesterday. I've measured it all. I could have used that. Damn. Anyway, such is life. So as I said, this thing is badged as KT Solar, and comes with this little booklet here which says Magicube. So this one has Bluetooth. It does have RS485. I'm not sure where you connect to. Oh yes, the RS485 is a socket on the bottom. So there's a little user manual there, which is pretty good. Gives you all the guff on it. Same stuff as the box has got written on it. Installation guidelines. As you can see, it's got down here. This is the RS485 and remote. You can get a remote for it. It's got a temperature sensor that connects over here, and there's your usual solar in battery connections and load terminals, which can be programmed. There's the RS485 wiring connections there. So all the information's here. Now the Bluetooth is usual thing, doesn't go very fast. So I've actually ordered a Bluetooth, external Bluetooth. You can buy an external Bluetooth display for this. Just Bluetooth with a display, or Bluetooth without a display. I've ordered the Bluetooth without display, because I just want to be able to read this thing on my phone. So there's all the guff about it. Quite a good little booklet. Now you can set parameters in this thing from the app. So there's a Bluetooth app which I've got on this phone here. I haven't figured out how to do this on YouTube yet to get the screenshots, I don't think, but anyway, I'll see if I can do that. So let's have a look at the actual device. Here it is here. Sorry about the glare. So we can see it running here. As you can see, it's pumping out 60.5 amps there at the moment into the battery. That's the PV. Is at 32 volts. 14.6 I've currently got the battery set to. There's a bit of loss on the cable. But yes, so this just continues to scroll through. The blue flashing light indicates the Bluetooth is connected. The top left-hand indicator is the solar panel. Bluetooth indicator. That's the load, to tell you the load's on or off. You can turn that on or off in the programming, and that there's a battery present. So I've got an at a glance bloody great big huge amp meter here, which is telling me I'm pumping in over 60 amps at the moment. So let's have a look, and that's true. So it's a bit more generous than it says. This is set to the maximum of 60 amps, and it thinks it's doing 60 amps. Let's have a look. That's PV volts. Battery 14.6, 60.5. That's what it thinks it's doing. Actually, it's a bit more generous. It's putting out 62. So I'm in full sun at the moment. Now, one of the things I had to do with this is this actually gets quite warm. First off, I spaced it off the wall a bit to improve airflow up here, but that didn't sort of suffice. So I've put a little 60mm fan in behind it, and that's operated thermally. There's a thermal switch here that cuts in at 35 degrees. Because what I noticed was this was dropping back to about 55 amps once this was in full sun, and it was really belting out, putting 900 odd watts was coming in from off solar going through this thing. This thing got hot, so yeah, so I thought, well, I'll put a thermal switch so that cuts in automatically, and that gets this back up to pushing out maximum, as I say, 66 amps, and it does that all day, no problems at all. So working quite well, and I'll tell you what, these cables are warm and they're 10mm. Yeah, so and so is the solar in. Yeah, anyway, it does a fantastic job. I've got no complaints with it. It's been working brilliantly for the price. I think the KT Solar is an excellent little solar controller. Right, let's have a look at this app. Now, this is an Android phone, so I've downloaded Solar Life BT. You'll see that up the very top left-hand corner. Next to that is a BMS. That's a JK BMS app, but that orange one in the top left-hand corner. So I'll select that, and I'll just tap on that. That opens this screen here. Now you'll see here, this is a Bluetooth searching thing, the screen that comes up here. And you'll see it's found, I don't know what these TY things are. They must be something around the area, I'm not sure. Solar Life, the top one, is the one we want. So tap on that. Here's our screen here. Now at the very top, this is the monitoring screen. So this gives you just your basic information that you want, typically what you're going to look at. So you can see on here, we're in daytime mode. It thinks the battery's at 99% because it's voltage based. This thing is looking at 14.7 down there where the battery voltage is, and saying this is at basically at 100%. Now it's not. As I said, that 14.7 is reading around about 0.6 of a volt higher than the actual battery terminal. So I'm about 14.1 at the battery. Right, so you can see the load is on. The load, it's telling you that the load's on. Well, I've got that set permanently on. Right, so down below here we can see the PV is at 31.2 volts, 29.72 amps coming off the solar array. I've got four 400 watt panels up there. Charging, strong charge, 926 watts. The battery, as I said, 14.7. It's getting 60 amps thrown at it at the moment. The temperature there comes off a little temperature probe that's only about 100mm long, 50mm long, hanging out the bottom of the solar charger. Now it's just measuring ambient temperature and defaults to 29 degrees for some reason. Let's have a bit more of a look at that, because it's not 25 degrees. What is it? Current, it's 21, so it just sits at 25. I think it said in the book it defaults to 21. So got to have a bit more of a look at that. Now the load at the bottom is 14.7 output. There's 0.28 of an amp or 4 watts. So now The only thing that's running on that at the moment is the fan, little fan that I showed. All right, so let's have a look at, if I tap on PV, so I tapped on that first box PV, and it takes me a little bit more detailed information. So there again, 30.8 volts, 29.94 amps, and 932 watts. Then below that, energy generated today. So this is since midnight. As you can see, we've generated 2.11 kilowatt hours. Now the total energy generated is since switch on. So this has been running for 4 days now. This is 4.5 days. I've generated 14.38 kilowatt hours. And below that, you can see we've got a 60 days of energy generated graphs. Now, you'll notice at the bottom it says 5th of the 8th. It's currently the 6th of the 7th. I have to drag that scale, the very bottom, put my finger on that bottom scale ruler, 5th to the 8th to the 5th, 10th to the 5th, 12th to the 5th, and I drag that from across to the right. And if I keep doing that, you'll see that the current date appears down here. So I guess this builds over time. I suppose it catches up eventually, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see what that does. Now if I put my finger on the screen and I drag up, you'll see it says running days down the bottom here, 4 days. Select that, and this gives me a list of the generation within the 24-hour period on each of those dates. So 2nd of the 7th, I think the system was down or it was cloudy, it was 1900. Next day, 3rd of the 7th, bit better, 2740. Again, I was doing work on the system, so I had it switched off at times, but I think that was largely a sunny day. A little bit of cloud yesterday, so 3660, and on the 4th, and then the 5th, 3950 sunny day, and it was running all day. So as you can see, that list will build as time goes on. I'll push the back, but down the bottom, back arrow, go back to this screen here, and if you pull the screen down, it does a reload. Now, if I at the top here, under monitoring, I select the battery header, push that. That takes me to battery voltage. Currently, it says it's 14.7. Again, shortcoming of this controller is it has no function to remotely monitor the actual battery, given the cable loss in between. And the cable loss is about a 0.6, 0.7 of a volt. So my battery's currently at 14.1. It has not reached the target voltage yet. But this thing will think it would think it did. If I set it to 14.6, it would be retarding the charge now, because it's saying, oh, well, you're nearly charged. But I'm not nearly charged, so problematic. So as you can see, battery current 60 amps, as set to 60 amps. Battery status is normal. Charging status, strong charge, okay, because it's bunging in the 60 amps. And discharging status is discharging. That box is the load terminals. That's the discharging, is the load terminals. So again, battery, running days, 4 days. If I select on that running days, push that, brings up a table as it did for the PV, and it tells me that the minimum voltage I had on the 5th was 12.9, the maximum voltage was 14.8. On the 4th was 12.9 and 14.4, so on. So I've only got 4 days of data there at the moment. Now I'll go the back arrow down the bottom, takes me back to here. I can go to load, so it will give me some data out of here. Load voltage, load current, so that's the fan running. 4 watts. Energy consumed today is 0.03 kilowatt hours. Total energy 0.14 kilowatt hours. Now I may put I've put that fan on running permanently at the moment. It runs 24 hours a day, but I'll probably put a thermal, little thermal load switch on it, so that it only comes on when the temperature gets up there. But at the moment, it's running all the time. Running days 4. There's the list. I used 20 watt hours on the 5th and the 4th, because it's only been on there for a couple of days. I had something connected on a fridge running on a 12 volt fridge running on the 2nd of the 7th, and it generated 50 watt hours, but only for an hour or so, a couple of hours, I don't know, whatever it was, a few hours. All right, that's that. So back arrow again. So relatively comprehensive information there. The download, if I select download, it comes up with this screen here. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to have a look. I haven't bothered doing anything because it's just, as I say, the problem, this is really all about configuring the controller and giving you some basic data about what its production was. It's not going to be of any benefit to give you what the battery's doing. And that's the job of the BMS. It will record all that information of everything that went in, everything that came out, etc., etc. So really, this is good for getting those production values out of how many watts we produced, you know, how for the day, etc. So it's quite good from that perspective. As I said, shortcomings of this controller are you're not actually monitoring the battery, and that should be addressed in this thing. They should bring that out to a terminal on the outside of the controller and allow you to run just some light gauge wire down to the battery terminal so you can monitor them in the actual battery, so that the controller is doing its thing based on the actual terminal voltages. Yes, a significant shortcoming. Anyway, here we go. That's the beast. Yes, and as you can see now, so because we're now at 26 amps charge, it's dropped the battery from 99% before down to 94%. As that comes back up or goes down, that is indicating the state of charge based purely on terminal voltage. And it's inaccurate anyway, because the terminal voltage, in fact, I can't, because I'll turn the, I don't have my breaker on the solar at the moment. I'm waiting for a high current one to come in, which I haven't got. So I've got it permanently connected. But if I disconnected the solar, yeah, see, it's 93% now. Where's that? 92%. The current's coming up. 40 plus amps or something. Yeah, 94%. So it's just based on terminal voltage. So it's a pretty useless measurement system, realistically. Anyway, there we go. There's the app. Thanks. Okay, so there you have it. Now, as I said that at the beginning, the controller I bought was a KT Solar brand. It's exactly the same as Lumiax now. I don't know who's the original manufacturer or if either of them are, but I've only seen that controller come from those two companies, Lumiax and KT Solar. KT Solar, I don't know that they've still got that on their website, so the reason I might have got that cheap was because it was old stock or something, but Lumiax is certainly still selling it. I ordered my external Bluetooth adapter, which I've got, and I installed that now, and that lets me get I've moved that on, I put on a 6 meter RJ11 cable, moved it out of the shed so that it can send signal into the house, which it does thoroughly. So I bought that from Lumiax, so and they're very, very good to deal with. I just contacted, sent them an email, said I want one of these, what do you got? And they said you can have one with a display, one without. No worries. And shot it to me. I think it was about $30, including DHL envelope or something like that. 30. Anyway, it was great, and they had it here in a few days, so very good to deal with. But great product, works really well. The only shortcoming that I've got, or the only reservations I had for it initially, was that voltage error. It's taking the terminal battery voltage from the screw terminals on the controller, and that's not accurate. The thing does need, it should, at 60 amps, you're going to get voltage drop across. I've increased the size of those cables now, and that's reduced it, but I'm still losing around about 0.3 of a volt, I think, between the battery terminals 2 meters away. That's going through a disconnect switch, it's going through a fuse, it's going through the shunt, and the shunt gets quite warm on that analog meter. And so really, you know, it's just should have, given the current that thing's pushing through, you're going to get voltage drop, and it should have remote monitoring terminals. That's the shortcoming. That's the only shortcoming. And so as a result, you have to typically have to set the battery full voltage higher than you would. So if you want it 14.4, you've got to set it to 14.7. Otherwise, it'll just, because I've only got a limited number of hours. I've got from about 8:30 in the morning until about 1:30, 2 o'clock before it goes into, the sun goes beyond the building next door. So I need to maximise, the as much of the power. I need to get as much of that into the battery in that limited time as I can, particularly if you get some shady days or cloudy days. Because it will wind itself back when it thinks it's reached terminal. So my initial setup, I was out by 0.8 of a volt between the controller and the battery terminals. It was huge, but I've since upgraded the cable to 35mm where I can. I haven't finished sorting it out yet, and that's reduced that problem, but it's still. And the problem is as it gets to full on a full sunny days, as it gets up there, it's going to. You've really got to make sure you don't leave it, with undersized wiring, because you have to go and tell that thing not 15 volts. I don't want the battery at 15. I want it back at 14.6. But you can only do that unless you've got unlimited sunlight all day. Anyway, that's its shortcoming. It should have remote monitoring. It is an absolute shortcoming of this thing. Apart from that, it's a great controller. Works brilliantly. I have no problems with it. It's been doing a great job. So definitely need the fan. It should have remote terminal monitoring. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful. Thanks a lot for watching. Give us a like or subscribe. Cheers.